Chrisman for their incredible work. You know, certainly the idea that you could have a CM and a partner like Chrisman that cares so deeply about this district, that you know, some of the folks went to school here, some of the folks grew up here, you know, that means a lot to me. Coming from New York, a lot of times the big developers and the big builders have nothing to do with the public schools. They didn't go there, they had no connection. Here, the fact that we have that partnership is incredible. And then just our wonderful facilities team. So that's Christina over there, she's our COO, and Lori, well, Steve can wave, you know him, you know, he's great. But, you know, the idea that a building like this can exist happens because of hundreds of hours of meetings with architects and CMs and things like that. And so, you know, I really want to thank them. And we also have two other wonderful guests, and that's our two deputy superintendents. So Sergio Keck is the deputy superintendent of special populations, and Jessica Benavides is the deputy superintendent of schools. So, yes. And so I was told that as a host I get to basically brag for a while, so that's going to be fun. Because again, the thing about public schools, especially urban public schools, is I think we're unfairly maligned, both in the press and honestly in the hearts and minds of communities. I'm not going to say that there wasn't good reason to question what was going on in Lansing for the last 40 years, but I think that over the last 4 years, there's a narrative and a story that is something that's really, really special. And again, even though we have an incredible comms department, Ryan is somewhere, our head of comms is incredible. Getting that story out there, getting that narrative out there is sometimes difficult. And so what I'd like is to share a little bit about what's happened over the last 4 years. So with that, you can look over there. So, this is what we got. So, I'll come over. So, you know, Lansing School District on the rise. So, we have had historic graduation rates.
We can hear you, Ben.
Yeah, actually, we shut that off. Having been a high school principal for 10 years, I can project in a auditorium or a gymnasium. So we have some really wonderful things we want to share. Historic graduation rates, improved test scores, overall academics, more teachers in the classroom, attendance is better, new construction facilities, etc. So this is our graduation rates, and I usually just do this. So I got here, it was 62%. Last year, 88%. That is a 26% increase in graduation rates. I include this slide because I don't want you to think I was juicing the numbers, right? It's not like it was really high and then it came down and then I just taking credit. Lansing had actually never had over a 70% in the history of Lansing School District. And this asterisk, the 69, is only because that was the COVID year where they basically got rid of all rules and you could graduate pretty easily. And so what we've really seen is this incredible increase in graduation rate, and that's thanks to just knowing our kids better, focusing on graduation, having things like graduation specialists, and changing the way that we work with our kids and our community, and this has been really terrific. So just to give you an example, so highest graduation rate ever, it's the first time we were above 80, first time we were above 85, and the year before was the first time we were above 70 and 75, and then our dropout rate was the lowest on record too. The reason why I actually think that dropout rate is a better number is, look, we know not every kid is going to graduate on time. We get it, right? We have 10,000 kids, not everybody's going to be on time. But a dropout means that they've given up on the school district, and the school district has given up on them. So we had a dropout rate of 17% when I got here, meaning that so many kids didn't kind of do well in 4 years and just said, forget it. Now, even if a kid isn't graduating on time, they're staying with us because they have a relationship, because they like being in the schools, they like being supported, and the fact that our dropout rate is at 5% is really, really something to be proud of. And so again, you can see in just 3 years, it's up 26, dropout as well. We'll get our finalized numbers for this year in about February, so I won't know particularly exactly what those numbers are, but it does look like we're trending even higher than 88, which is pretty amazing. But it's not just about graduation. Test scores. So this is from a huge longitudinal study by Harvard and Stanford. Every dot is a school district in Michigan. Sadly, you can see where Lansing was. So these are the change in math achievement, so growth rates in math from 19 to 22. Change in reading, 19 to 22. Lansing was one of, if not the lowest, in terms of math achievement, meaning that our growth rates was one of the lowest in the entire state of Michigan. Same thing with reading. Down, bad, right? And this is poverty index, but again, more importantly, you're talking about Lansing being the lowest, or one of the lowest in both English and math. And just in the last 2 years, here we are. We have the highest reading achievement scores in the entire state of Michigan. So out of all 550 school districts, we have the highest growth rate in English and one of the highest in math. That is applause, you know, people just usually go. So the same thing is to improve test scores. I usually put this because I want you to just see it all, right? I'm never going to lie to you. I'm never going to kind of obfuscate the truth. The truth is we are still, now this is NWA, so these are exams that we give. This is not MSTEP. MSTEP is a little bit different, which I'm happy to share as well. But what I want you to see is a twofold story. A 9% proficiency in math is dreadful, right? That is unacceptable. That's what we got when I got here. We are now up to 17.5. So that's almost 100%. It's still way too low, right? So we have to be proud that we've almost doubled our math scores, but we have to be worried that, wow, it's still very low. And thanks to the work of Jessica and Sergio, we really do believe that these numbers are going to start to increase again. And what you're also seeing in terms of net growth is that this means that you did the year of growth you were supposed to. The problem, of course, is if you started behind, even 1 year of growth isn't going to get you to proficiency. So you've got to look at both numbers. Proficiency at 17.5, still way too low, but very, very much better than when we got here. And now also raising our net growth, so more and more kids are getting it. This is English. Same thing. 15 to 20, I'm not thrilled with 20, but you're talking about almost a 30% increase in reading scores in just 3 years. And then, of course, our net growth is a little stagnant, and we need to really focus on this. So again, test scores, reading, English, math, all of that have been going up pretty dramatically. The other thing that I want you to know about, and this gets a little bit into education keys, which I appreciate is a language only I speak, but what you see is a list of our schools that were in what's called the bottom 5%. So the state of Michigan, they don't just look at test scores or attendance. They look at this kind of panoply of data. This is everything from the number of art teachers you have and the amount of time that kids go to PE and the fact that they graduate or they don't. And they combine all these numbers into something called the SIS, the school index. That's the gold standard. So when they look at how good a school is, they look at this thing called the SIS. And if you're in the bottom 5% of the state of Michigan, you're in trouble. You can be taken over, you can be put on corrective action, whatever. When I got to Lansing, 14 of our schools were in the bottom 5%. 14. That was more than half of our schools were in the bottom 5%. And these are them here. And then these ones we are not in the chart for a lot of reasons I'll explain. But if you add it all up, you have 14 of our schools were in the bottom 5%. The reason why Kennedy Willow, Willow, and Hackberry on the line are not included is because A, Kennedy merged. Rio merged, Willow and Riddle didn't have enough numbers for the actual statistics, but they still were in the bottom 5%. And now, just really 2 years later, only 2 of our entire district is in the bottom 5%. That is a huge change, and that means, what you see is the scores change. It's not just 5%, they're almost doubling. So Lions going from 22 to 52, Gardner going from 21 to 46. It's not just like we're inching along, we're actually really blowing these numbers out of the water. And so people should be really, really proud of that. And so again, this is that number. People really outside of education don't talk about the school index score, but if you ever ask somebody what's the number you school index score? Because again, it's an amalgam of test scores and attendance and graduation and, all sorts of things. So really things have been terrific, and we're really moving forward. And these two schools, North and April, which are still in the bottom 5%, we think that as of this year, they'll be out of it. We'll see, because again, the bottom 5% is not based on us, it's based on every school in the district, in the state, and we don't know their numbers until the end of the year. Some other things, attendance. This was another huge goal. Again, when I got here, 70%. Last year, it was 83%. We haven't finished the school, just ended on Friday, so we haven't looked at the numbers yet, but we think we're running at around 86 or better. Our goal is to hit 90. An increase of 13 percentage points for attendance is pretty much unheard of. And then the last one, which we're really, really proud of, is chronic absenteeism. If you read the paper, if you look at education articles, the big issue isn't just attendance, it's chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism, the definition is if you are missing 18 days of the year, because that's 10%, right? School goes to school 180, 18 is 10%. If you're absent more than 10% of school days, stats are very clear, you're not going to do as well. And so school districts want to work really hard on lowering chronic absenteeism. When I got here, chronic absenteeism literally was at 90%, which is crazy. Now it was at 58.9 last year. We think it's around 52, but it actually could be a lot better. I just don't want the only time I'm ever a conservative is when it comes to numbers and politics. So the idea here is that we're probably at 52 or better, and again, something to be really, really proud of. The other one that's been a huge change is it's really hard to do your job if you don't have teachers in your class. When I got here, again, there was a huge problem with having certified teachers in the classroom. We had well over 100 vacancies, and now, and we just did this from 22 to 25, we now have decreased the classroom vacancies by 80%. We're averaging maybe 15 to 20 vacancies a day, which is actually very, very low, because you can imagine people retire or resign or things happen. So we know that this graph allows us to get those higher test scores and those graduation rates and things like that, because if you don't have teachers, it's really hard to do your job. So that's the kind of academic piece, but then also I think I want to share all the construction work. So you are in wonderful Mount Hope, the new Mount Hope. We are going to be opening up brand new Mount Hope in August. We will then be opening up brand new Willow, August 26th, and then we're going to be opening both Luton and Sheridan Road in 2028. So in 4 years, we will have 4 brand new schools for the kids of Lansing. And again, that's thanks to you. You were the real strength behind our bond, real strength behind the community, and I just want you to take credit and be pretty proud, because clearly I'm going to ask you for more money, so I want to make sure that you feel like it was worth it. But it's not just a new building. We built a brand new gymnasium at Atwood. So this is what it looks like, very similar to this, but it was just an extension because Atwood is now a K-8 and they needed more space. So something that's really, really great is to have this new space for our kids. We've also built new pre-K schools. So we're the only school district in the state that has universal pre-K. We started it 4 years ago. We're still up and running. It's really great. So we can expand on pre-K. We're doing things like new parking lots, new fencing. If you drive by any of our schools, you'll see kind of just a facelift for everybody. We're going to have brand new fencing, which is super important for safety. You have new playgrounds in every one of our schools. I'm going to point this out. This is a brand new walking track at Gardner that was actually funded by a community member, a guy named Chuck Block, who's a great friend of the district. So hint, 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 if you want to donate a track, we'll take it. If you want us to name it after you, we'll do that as well. But in all seriousness, one of my biggest struggles in Lansing is we're the one big city in Michigan that doesn't have endemic philanthropy. Right? When you think of Flint, you think Mont. When you think, Battle Creek, you think Kellogg. When you think of, Grand Rapids, you think of a bunch of rich people. Like, whatever it is, the fact that we don't have that endemic philanthropy is something that I struggle with. And I know that we are a lot better than, we're better, our sum of our parts are better than the individual. But I think that if you think of smaller things, like could somebody raise money to build a playground? Playgrounds are what, 80 to 100,000, maybe 120. Christina wants more money, let's call it 130. But, you know, we could do naming rights, we don't care, right? But that's just something that school districts here in Lansing have just not done, and it's something we really need. Because it's not just about the big bombs like this, it's about smaller things like a walking track or, you know, playgrounds. The next one that I'm really, really proud of is we redid the track at Hill, and that's really for the community, right? We do have a school there, Lansing Tech, but this is used by the community. We built it, we spent a lot of money. We also got money from the state, and I want to thank the state for being really thoughtful about it, but these are the kinds of things that as a viable school district, it's not just about the kids, it's about the community as well. And the other thing I'll point out is that's a solar farm. So starting soon, we will be flipping the switch, and I think it is a 1 to 2 megabyte, what is it?
It's a 1.2.
1.2? Yeah, a megawatt facility. So what you're talking about is one of the largest, solar arrays in this area, and it'll allow us to really reduce the cost of running Hill for many, many years. And so we're really proud of that. And then, of course, new playgrounds, etc. So that's the story in brief. I know you have actual meeting stuff you have to do, and we want to give you a tour, but I hope that this gives you 3 things to think about. One, that we really appreciate your support. None of this would have been able to happen if it wasn't for the chamber and the kind of the commensurate folks within it that are supporting us, and so thank you for that. 2, if people ask you about the school district, you can now give them a narrative that things are getting a lot better, that these last 4 years have been really special, and we're on the upswing. Are there things to fix? 100%. Are there things we can do better? 100%. But we haven't seen this kind of growth in Lansing really in generations. And then the third thing is, if you want to be part of this story, you want to be part of this positive, wonderful thing for Lansing, we are always, always happy to sit down with each and every one of you. If there's mentoring, tutoring, donations, whatever it is, this district will only be as good as the community that supports it. So with that, I thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Jamie?
I don't really have a question. I have a statement.
Sure.
Those of you that know me are not going to be surprised by this, because public education is very near and dear to my heart as a former public school trustee myself in the local district. I want to commend you.
Thank you.
I know firsthand just how difficult those metrics are to move, and really, really good job.
Thank you.
And to the business community, I also want to say, I'm going to tie this back to our benchmarking report. Public education is what's going to drive people to this region. It's going to be what drives our population growth in the state of Michigan. And this is a statewide issue. Here in our region, we should be very proud of the public schools that we have here, because that is what's going to drive people here. And we know that our population is stagnant. This is a huge success story. And I mentioned it at Chamber, huge econ lunches with the MEDC, that if we want to fix our population problem, we need to address our public school problem. The state of Michigan is either half to about a third of public schools in the country. And if we want to bring new people here that are going to be starting families, we need to make sure our public schools are desirable. Ingham County, our region, has desirable schools. And I think that we should all be very proud of that. But also as a business community, we should also, I think, be very aware of what's happening at the state level. And if you have it in you, pay attention, be involved in what's happening with Michigan public schools, our legislation, our funding, because that's what's really going to make the difference. And so this was my opportunity to commend you, because I know just how hard it was to move the metrics that you moved, but also to use this opportunity to just talk about how important public schools are to population growth in our state and bringing people here and keeping them here.
Well, thank you very much. And I take that praise for everybody. You can't run a district of 1,600 employees and think it's about me, but I appreciate that. It's our staff that's been really good on this. So, Amy, you would?
Yeah, and similar to what Jamie was saying, just commending the organization, your leadership, and the staff team. I had a couple of questions. to us to let people, as a community of leaders, to let others know the success story. Part of the benchmarking outcomes that we talked about, the next steps is doing a better job of sharing these success stories. And just to end it, we talked about ways that we can engage as a business community, but specifically, who should we call, how can people get engaged, because we want to help continue moving.
914-471-3888. It's my cell phone number. Many of you in this room have it. But seriously, just send me an email and I'll do it the right way to whoever it is. But your question, which I really appreciate, is in some respects that graduation number, that's an outcome based on systems and structures that we've changed over the last 4 years. So a couple of things I can point to. We created something called EduStat. So what that is a monthly meeting where every principal comes, meets with Jess, meets with me, meets with our team, and we go through a series of data outcomes from the school. So we say, hey principal, what's your attendance? It's here. Okay, that's the same number we have, so at least we're playing by the same numbers. And well, what's going on? And we'll go drill it all the way down to the student level and say, how come Johnny has been out for 10 days? What are you doing? And they go, oh, well, we've called 6 times, we've sent this to public safety, he's actually in Miami, whatever, right? Or, hey, we can't find him, we need help, right? And so by articulating what our goals are, graduation, attendance, test scores, etc., and then holding folks accountable with support, it's actually moving the needle. So, and this is true in business, this is true in any organization, is what are your goals? Are your structures built for those goals? And then are you holding people accountable? But not in a punitive manner, but in a supportive manner. One of the other big things we've done, and business community hopefully will like this, is we've created school-based budgeting. So typically, districts of this size tend to keep the money in central office and then distribute it at what they think is right. That is a terrible way to run a school district. So what we've done is we just take a per capita and we shift all that money to the schools. So now what are you seeing? More adults in the schools, you're seeing more equipment in the schools, you're seeing more money in the schools, less in central office. And that's led to some of these great results, right? And so I know education pretty good, I know my job. But who's gonna know the school better? The actual principal, the actual teacher. So you say, look, here's the money, here's our outcomes we expect, you go do, and if you need support, come and let us know. But I would say that really the difference is, and there's a phrase that's used in education quite often, is the soft bigotry of low expectations. And that's what you saw in Lansing, it's what you see around the country. And once we changed the expectations and said, we expect our kids to graduate at 85 or better, or be President 90, or have higher proficiency rates, and then say to the principals and the teachers, we expect this, but we need you to tell us what you need so we can support you, that's really what's happened. And Jessica will hate me for saying this, but one of the things I really want to do this current year is I want to invite the public to watch how EduStat meetings work. Because you're going to see just how great our educators are, because they know each and every kid, and how they're moving the needle forward in ways that really was unheard of 5 or 6 years ago. And one way that you can kind of articulate this is, we look at data. So we say, our ELA rates are 40%, whatever it is. I wish they were 40, but whatever. They're 40%. But it's about Middleton. It's about little Johnny. And in some of our schools, like Alliance, where you only have 2 classes per grade, you're only talking about 50 kids in all of 2nd grade. So you move 1 more kid to proficiency, that's 2% right there. So it's not just, numbers, it's if you just got Timmy to be proficient, things are going to change. And that personalization, as well as that understanding and holding people accountable, has really been a huge change to what we're doing. So, thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
What's being done to, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
What's being done to engage the parents in reference to achieving the goals and things of the Lansing schools? Because really, when those students walk across, and the students that really get the big money, the families are supporting them, the community is supporting them. What else is being done to energize the parents to get active and get involved?
No, I love the question. So 2 things. One, a couple of years ago, I started a family superintendent roundtable. So once a month, I actually have an open meeting where all of senior staff and myself are present at Old Wainwright Halleck, and any parent that wants can come, and they'll ask us stuff, they're not always but that's our job, right? And so in that meeting, it started off with only like 5 parents, and then the next month it was like 10, and now we packed the entire, room with so many parents. So that is just about opening up to families so that they feel more engaged. But the second thing is we actually have a specific person in the office whose one of his main jobs is to make sure there's a PTO at every school by October. And so one of the things that we found is a lot of our schools don't have, let's just say, high-functioning parent-teacher organizations for whatever reason. So this summer, we're really committing to that, and our goal is by October 1st, all of our schools will have a functioning PTO with a president, a vice president, a bank account, a support network, a calendar of meetings, et cetera, et cetera. And then once we make it easier for families to be involved, I know they will be. And because I want to be really clear here, I sometimes hear, especially when I speak at national conferences, they're like, the parents, they don't care. Bullshit. Parents love their children. They are sending you the best kids they got. Jessica always jokes. It's not like they're hiding some like their best kids over here, right? They are sending you the best kids they got. They love the schools and they want to be a part of it. But oftentimes schools make it very difficult for parents to get involved. The schools push them away. And so what we're trying to do is really reframe it, saying how can we bring you in? And so these PTOs is a step one, but certainly we want to, and we're also looking for volunteers and tutors and things like that, and we're seeing more and more parents. And not to blame COVID, but I will say that the 2 years of COVID really stopped that relationship, and now just getting it back is taking some time.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah.
Can I just follow up on that? As ways that, and I'm going to encourage and challenge all of you to take that step further. Any of you are involved in service organizations, reach out to the school district. I'm part of the Greater Lansing Optimist Club, and we adopted North School last year and have done coat, hat, glove drive, book drive and distribution. We redid the staff lounge. We find people, we all post on our social media, hey, we're collecting Clorox wipes and Kleenex for North School, help us out. And we collect those things and take them. So we as an organization have made that partnership where we might not have the parents up and running with that yet, but we're showing that we have the community support. Teacher Appreciation Week, we found businesses to help us bring in, donuts and coffee for the staff.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it. So I know you have other things that you want to take a tour, but I'm not kidding. Reach out to me, reach out to my team, we will get back to you. We have 4 years now of doing some really spectacular stuff. These next 4 years is going to be that kind of hockey stick, right? If you do investing in startups, they talk about the hockey stick. We're now built the structure so that we can really jump. But these next couple of years are going to be so important to that big jump, and that's where we really need your support. And I will say one last thing, which is I think I'm allowed to legally, we'll say whatever. The one thing I'm going to need everybody's help with is the Headley Amendment rollback. So what you might not know is that school districts are supposed to get 18 mills for the functioning of school districts. There's this weird loophole that if you don't ask for the money, you don't necessarily get all of it. So right now, we're not getting 18 mills for the school district. We're only getting 17.4 mills for the school district. That's because of this weird formula of property taxes and inflation and some things that happened years ago. So soon, I will be coming to the community to say we need a heavy rollback. We need to change this so that we get just what we deserve, which is the 18. I'm not asking for more, but we're going to need that 18. Where I'm going to need your help is it's a super complicated ask because it doesn't even make sense to like me, and I'm in this world. And so we're going to be creating some, as simple as we can, documents around how to organize this and talk about this, but just know school districts are supposed to get 18 mills. We're only getting 17.4. We need those extra 0.6. It's going to have to be a vote. We're going to need your help for that. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Calvin, and we look forward to the tour and certainly reach out to you. Thank you.
Thank you.